Let's do it. Gonna adjust the music slightly up. Or is that too much and I need to turn this down? Is that better? Is that better? We'll see. We'll see if that's better. All right. Good. That's not the latest version. Here's the latest version. Here we go. Let's see if I can clean up this headdress. Started it this morning, got tired, stopped, and now we begin again. We have new music today. This is a Final Fantasy VII lo-fi playlist. It sounds pretty good so far. I am going to be one day hopefully surprised by a Secret of Mana playlist. That would be awesome. I wonder how many Secret of Mana fans are out there that are waiting to do something in the fandom that haven't seen the opportunity yet. We're all hiding, and one day we'll we'll walk in the light, show ourselves. Oh, you're doodling. Good. Thanks for joining. I have another idea for a brilliant composition. But I'm going to force myself to try and work on this a little bit longer. But I'm glad you're doodling. This one looks like it's gonna do pretty good. If you mean on the in the sphere of the public arena, I'm inclined to agree, and it's what I'm pleased about is that it was sort of designed to do good. You know, I'm like, okay, this will be one that people will like, and if it doesn't do well, I'll be surprised. And I am happy to say I was like, oh, okay, well, if I give people exactly what they want, which is which is fuel for their lovesick hearts, I mean, what more do people need? If they get what they want, then they will, you know, if you build it, they will come, right? What is a little dangerous with that is, oh, it's quite dangerous for me because the positive reaction to something that can come out you know, compared to like the Moblin thing, the idea of drawing like beautiful lady, Link looking longingly at whatever, you know, mugging and or mewing. The soap opera stuff, you know, it's good. It's a tad bit obvious for me, but if I'm good at it and people respond to it and it can sort of help spread the word a bit, you know, hypnotize people into liking my stuff, and then that's ultimately step one, I suppose, to get where we need to go. But it's definitely been well received, and I'm pleased about that. And I have an idea of something to follow it up with, but I'm gonna let the juice run dry, and then basically I was realizing it's like, okay, I can, anytime things get just quiet, I gotta do what I gotta do. And it isn't like, you know, if you know, I tried selling spinach and healthy vegetables, and there were very few takers. Relative to the market for addictive sugar. But there's vegetables in the sugar. They just don't notice it yet. It will be the conversion point. I'll woo them with my magic, and then I'll save their souls. How are you doing with your sketch? Is it... Oh, you said you just started, so... Well, you should share it when you're at a place with it. Just doodles, faces, and poses. Yeah, between the... Okay, cool. Yeah, the way to come up with an idea is just to do little studies and doodle. You should do more studies. I would advise that because they can really take the pressure off. They're kind of rewarding, and they're helpful to... They're a good exercise for your brain. I remember a while back I read a quote that said, it's like, all drawing is done from memory. Even if you have a reference in front of you, you still have to remember it from the point that you see it to the point that it gets to your fingertips and onto the page. And it's sort of like, it's easy to discount that as like, well, that's nothing, but it isn't. That's not nothing. That's actually an incredibly significant and important part of your memory, to have a, like, that kind of really quick short-term recall. Because when you do conceive of an idea and you see it in your head, you have to retain it the same amount of distance. My lovely wife brought me a little smoothie, so I'm going to sip on that. You have a hard time using reference, but I do need more points of reference when drawing little details. Ah. Why do you have a hard time using reference? Do you feel like things don't match up, or that you use reference and then, I don't know. Do you feel like it's cheating? I wouldn't recommend just rote copying necessarily, if but sometimes that's a good skill too, you know? I draw on my tablet, and if I need reference, the screen is too small to hold reference, so I use my phone, and using my phone tires you out. Ah. It seems like somewhere there might be a solution for that, but... some sort of holding device for a phone. You got a laptop, or you're just too lazy? Be lazy about it. It's all good. Keep it fun. Are you a Final Fantasy fan? Final Fantasy was like my first Sony PlayStation game. Yeah, you like Final Fantasy? Me too. And it was like, it's so obvious, like, Zelda fans that like Zelda for all the right reasons are gonna love Final Fantasy for all the same reasons. You're most familiar with Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy XIII. I think I only really played Final Fantasy VII. People still talk about that like it's the best, and it may be. I never beat it. It was like so many of those types of games, I would get to the final boss, and I just couldn't beat it. And those games are weirdly cruel, where it's like, if you don't manage your save states very, very well, like, you can get where it's like you have to backtrack a lot and grind. And I didn't do that. I I just basically kept overwriting and overwriting my saves until I got to the end boss, and then I painted myself into a corner because I couldn't beat him, but I had saved right before you get to him, so going to an earlier state meant I was simply going back to right before I was about to beat him, or about to fight him. And man, that is that's no fun. And then you're like, well, I can't start the whole game over again. What do I do? I didn't know what to do. Can't beat him. Can't go back and level up. Just totally trapped. I'm like the Groundhog Day of losing. Yeah, same me too. I'm the same with my Pokemon games. Especially if like you're not that, because you want to save, but like you don't know when you're actually going to get to the actual end boss, and you get all full of excitement and momentum, and you forget to like save multiple states. You're like, even if you think about it, it can be hard to remember in the moment. So frustrating. Oh man, look how bad. Jeez, okay. I mean, I should point out that like I'm really trying to keep these lines parallel, like these guidelines. And I still these two things are supposed to be parallel, but there's a big difference there. And these two things are supposed to be parallel, but there's a big difference there, you know? Gotta go back, gotta fix it. Because I don't want to be messing around with the headdress details while I'm doing color and finding out I had the whole thing mapped out wrong. Probably don't gotta be perfect. Sometimes it's just a huge jump and you gotta grind levels and equipment, but I was not gonna do all that. Yeah. And it's like, the fun part of the game was still fun. I didn't actually need to beat it in order to... I wanted to beat it, but that didn't negate the fact that, 99% of the game was enjoyable and I experienced it. So... And, I'm not the only kid in the world who couldn't beat Final Fantasy VII when I was 14 or something. Games like that, that was one of the first games where I was like, this is like an adult game. This is not, I remember seeing a commercial for it on TV. It was so epic. .3D graphics and a fantasy game. The aesthetic was so incredible. The beginning was super scary for you, yeah. It's hard to tell because the characters are so cute little blocks, yeah. Wonder if that's something I can pull up. It's the original Final Fantasy trailer. Final Fantasy VII. The original trailer, 1998. Oh, this blew my mind here. We're gonna... do a little theater mode. You would have been 1 year old. Wow. All right. Making me feel old. I'll turn off the music for a second. We'll watch this. Okay. You may have seen this, but I haven't seen this in forever. Wait a second. This is not the trailer that I saw as a kid. This is a trailer. I need to see... Hold on. It's like a trailer. I need the commercial.
Beyond the...
This is it. Yeah. I think. It's got the voice. It's got that guy's voice.
Beyond the edge of reality lies a story of ultimate conquest, a story of war and friendship, a story of a love that can never be, and a hatred that always was. And now, the most anticipated epic adventure of the year will never come to a theater near you. Final Fantasy VII.
PlayStation.
So amazing. It's like cinema. It will never be in theaters. Final Fantasy VII. Bring back some music. Very vague trailer. At the time, I was like, what is that cool, like, motorcycle? It's like... It was super vague, yeah. And I'd never seen a commercial like that before. That was the new paradigm. It's probably hard to think about it, but it's like, you know, like now everything you do in some way or part is not everything you do, but the things that you see, especially video game trailers, like they're influenced by that. That was the first one that was like that, you know? Raised the bar on everything. This one's cool. I grew up in the 2000s, so I enjoy those types of trailers. They feel nostalgic, yeah. Something otherworldly about them. Those cinematic renders, in my head, I remember it being a lot cooler, but stuff back then was still powered by your imagination. The resolution on that, the thing that we just saw, was much higher than I'd ever seen it. The best a TV could offer was 720p, and nothing was coming in at 720p. If it was broadcast, there was always some sort of static on it. Again, I'm drawing in a lighter tone, which feels a little bit sort of preventing me from thinking too concretely about my lines. I can sort of feel and explore without the ability to, because I can't go dark with it, I don't try to. Although in some ways I feel like I am trying to. I find myself pushing harder than I need to. I just need to back off a little bit. Gotta be careful with that wrist, yeah. Do you experience pain when you draw? A lot of artists do. It's nothing uncommon. Especially in my circles, a lot of my professional friends have pain. I always get a bit of sensitivity down. Otherwise I get turn sensitivity down. Otherwise I get a bit of wrist discomfort. Yes. That's usually my first bit of advice is, like people who talk about if they're in pain in their wrists when they draw for prolonged periods, sensitivity is too high. Crank it down, learn to draw with a lighter touch, more sensitively. A good way to know if you are drawing too hard is if you are changing your nibs with any regularity. That should pretty much be a once a year thing, if that. I change my nibs once every like 4 years. My nibs get more damage from me dropping my pencil than me using them. Or dropping the stylus, right? It's not a factor of pushing down and making it hard. If you're doing that, you're going to damage the nib, but probably do more damage to your wrist. Wrist and your fingertips and all that stuff. I think it's gotten less of an issue the more I draw and practice, but if I'm pushing or squeezing too hard, you'll feel it. Yeah. Dang, I've had my tablet pen for like 3 years. I should probably get a new one soon. It would just be the tip, the nib. The most important thing is to pay attention. If you feel like things are jumping around or being unresponsive to strokes, that might simply be a nib issue. Some people default first to being like, oh, my drivers are messed up or whatever. It's not always the drivers. Sometimes it's the nib. And those things can be difficult to diagnose. It's a simple Samsung pen. Okay, you don't know if you can replace those nibs. Okay. So you have like a Galaxy. I've never used one, but I assume that's what you got. I believe they license the Wacom tech. So you still kind of, I think, have the basic experience of a Wacom tablet. Although don't quote me on that. I can't be sure. Google says we can replace on the S Pen. Okay, cool. But, you know, when I'm talking about replacing nibs, I'm talking about the Wacom nibs. If you're using an S Pen, I don't have any experience with that. Those things may be more durable. They might use different technology. I'm not sure if they use the same technology. The screen is pretty smooth and oily, so the nibs probably last longer. Yeah. Yeah. Simple rule applies to everybody. Don't push too hard on your screen. Don't push too hard on your wrist. No matter your device, loosen up. How is the music volume? Is it acceptable? I think I tweaked it a little bit higher. So I was listening back to a VOD this morning, and it seemed low. It seemed low to me. So I tweaked it a little bit higher, and I don't know if the higher is better. It's good. Okay. Because of the distortion, the perspective distortion, it's important that the... See how this eye is bigger than this eye? And that's part of the perspective distortion. If that... Subsequently, then, everything that's on this side of the headpiece has to be at least a little bit larger than everything on this side of the headpiece. Right? And if it isn't, in a subtle way, it's noticeable. And it won't look good. Not as good as it could. What's that mean? Maybe? Mib? Well, it is true. Assuming they were the same size, I tend to change the size too much, so now I try not to. Okay, like, better not mess with it, because if you don't get it right, it'll be, it's not worth the hassle to make it accurate. Yeah. Feel is that this needs to come in a little bit like this. This is interesting. There's another fire that sprung up in LA, but it's not in LA, it's in the surrounding, I would say it's in a far away but still large and impactful rural community outside of LA. kind of where a lot of horse ranches are. It's fairly nearby to where my daughter takes horse riding lessons. So I'm worried about that type of stuff. She's not doing any horse riding today. But if things don't go well, she might not be doing any horse riding tomorrow either. Or, you know, not tomorrow, this weekend. From what I recall of your art, you do have a very intuitive sense of thinking like a camera, though. Interesting perspectives. But I think you're making a distinction about foreshortening and that type of thing. You know about, you've heard of that term, I'm sure. And this will be the challenges. It won't be the challenge. It'll be one of many challenges to sort of make sure that this headpiece, though important, does not come to overly dominate her and, like, you know, essentially steal from her beauty. We don't want that. It's not worth the price of accuracy. Yeah, it's easier to push the perspective on non-organic, non-people things. Once I get to the person, if I'm not accurate, then the eye can immediately tell something's wrong. I think that's true. Although, sometimes organic figures can be a little, at least a little forgiving. Like a rigid building, if it's out of perspective and you know what it's supposed to look like, that can be pretty tricky. Nuzukara's joined the chat. Hey, what's up? Welcome. Attempting to draw this very detailed headdress. Ooh, and I like to live dangerously, as we know, but I am going to save. But drawing in perspective and further drawing people in perspective and all types of things in perspective, it's really not. It's not always like it. I think you're very intuitive about it, and I wonder if there's a sort of a difficult leap from intuitive to like I think your intuition gets you farther than most people, but then you probably hit a wall, and then because you were running on intuition, when you reach an obstacle, like a challenge that you can't intuit your way past or over, then it sort of gets you a little bit stuck. Is that something that's been happening? Since you don't tend to do many preparatory preparatory, I think we chatted about this, you don't tend to do a lot of preparatory sketches. Sort of diving in there boldly, throwing out color first thing. Living dangerously. That's just something I might suspect, is that that you get into that. A bit, yeah, but it also feels like my intuition has improved, and sometimes I'm even making more non-intuition, more conscious decisions, like with purpose and reason. Good. Okay, good. The compositions I've seen you put together are pretty advanced. Like they're the type of stuff that it's not like the other fan arts, you know. It feels like it's very challenging to. Well, I love that you think of it as like a scene, like a real set piece with the world as a complete backdrop, participating in, frankly, a visual slice of an interesting story, as opposed to, you know, here's this person floating in air on a white background, you know, just looking cute, with no sense of date or time or place, no context or emotion other than it's cute or it's cozy or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that stuff, but I don't think it's a great way to. I don't know if that's not, you know, that's not 4 daily servings of vegetables on your artistic platter. And I think that's it, is here's what I'm saying, is like, you can get people to follow you by serving them up, you know, sugar laced with meth or whatever. You agree? Yeah, like, it's like the follows aren't particularly necessarily, or the likes and the follows, those aren't particularly the challenge. It's actually doing stuff that improves you as an artist. Isn't necessarily the stuff that people can't help but click on and like, right? And you want to have fun when you draw too. Yeah, of course. Well, it's like, especially if you feel challenging. Avail, we were just chatting about, here's what's happening is, like, now that my little sketch, the metrics are clear that the fan favorite Midna did in fact turn out to be a good subject for not only depiction but getting engagement and stuff like that. And that's not the only goal I have. Engagement is important because I want feedback, but also sort of, to sort of develop a network of I don't know, potential people potentially interested in hearing what I have to say, right? But telling people what they want to hear as opposed to what they need to hear, because what they need to hear is good for them versus what they want to hear is just something that makes them slightly less anxious. It's like when there's danger threatening and you tell everybody, that's okay, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. Well, that's what they want to hear. But unfortunately, sometimes what you need to tell people is you need to pack your bags and evacuate right now. I need to make a Zelda artist starter pack so you can get those blue sky followers. I'm getting some blue sky traction actually. Like not much, but there's a non-zero amount. It's happening fast enough where I'm like, I should stop looking at my phone because it's like, you know, whatever. You can zoom in on. Make sure none of this is. You know, okay, this doesn't dox anybody. You can see like there's a blue sky thing somewhere there. Yeah, right there. There it is. There's a butterfly. I like the emote. You know, so it's happening. It's happening. I'm extremely pleased about it, but I know myself, and I'll get addicted to, you know, the praise or whatever. Because I've talked about it before. I don't get it through my work anymore. Shame on them, but here I am. I'm going to figure something else out. But I've got a little bit of a strategy now where basically, and it probably will end up being like a once a week thing, if I can help it, is, you know, the Midna studies piece. I mean, that was just a page of studies. That was like nothing. I just referenced some stuff, made tiny changes, drew it in my own style, and, you know, posted it as a collage. And then, and people ate that up. And I'm, you know, I love Midna too, so I'm glad. And then the new piece, which, you know, I'm passionate about all my art. I'm passionate about this piece, and I want to make it look good. But if and when, assuming the momentum on it dies out, I'll probably do another study. I have an idea for a because one of my favorite Zelda games is Link's Awakening, and I had an idea of depicting. Let me make sure I got this name right. You got to forgive me. I haven't played Link's Awakening. Yeah, okay. I haven't played Link's Awakening in 32 years, probably, or something like that. So it's Link's Awakening is one of the best, and probably, you know, it was like the Zelda. This was like the sequel to Link to A Link to the Past that we needed in Game Boy form. An amazing game, great music. I love the story and the silliness, and but you know, it opens basically with Link being found on the beach by Malin, the you know, the sort of princess in the story. Yeah, it was the first game to make you cry. Yeah, so I've got an idea. I can see it in my head. So it's Link on the, you know, Link freshly washed up to shore, and Malin is like basically cradling him in her lap, sort of gently trying to see if he's alive and waking up. And it's like a very still, tender moment, not a, it's not dynamic, just very, very still, you know. And challenge for that piece, though, is I feel like it would do better in widescreen. You have a hard time with still pieces? Yeah. You can't do it with all those diagonal kind of... Your stuff is very dynamic, so it's got all the diagonal lines and you know, the eye being thrust all over the place, and not haphazardly, but you know, ping-ponging around to find all sorts of different cool things going on. But yeah, the same with my work. But I will do something that will be more simple. Anyway, it feels like it would be a cool thing. Malin is another fan favorite. She's quite... she's got this kind of, like, girl of paradise vibe. Nothing wrong with that. I like the link in that one, for sure. Like the aesthetic. What is this? Did we... Yeah, okay, here we go. And just a reminder, we're listening to Final Fantasy VII Lo-Fi. It's a public playlist. We'll see if it's gonna get me any DMCA threats, but hopefully not. Hopefully we can make a show of it. A regular in the rotation. You like it? I was saying yesterday, Kingdom Hearts music always gets me flagged. No. Do they have Kingdom Hearts lo-fi? What I find is that the lo-fi stuff, I mean, it should be this way, where lo-fi stuff shouldn't be, you shouldn't have a, people should know better that if you're making fan art music, you shouldn't be restricting that. I totally get it to be like, well, I want to get some income from a stream or something like that, but you know, then compose something a little, I don't know, you know, we're giving away our Zelda art for free. Just my 2 cents. Kingdom Hearts is one of those games that people talk about as like it's legendary, the same way Final Fantasy VII is, and I've always been curious. But I've never played it. Oh, you're not a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts music? Oh, okay. Or, sorry, the game. Maybe I'm just getting all the Kingdom Hearts propaganda, and it sucks. I love the music, but the games I never really got into. Okay. I mean, it always seemed like a contrivance. I'm not sure how Disney stuff gets into something like that. You like the vibes. I like the story of Kingdom Hearts, but I've never played the games. Oh, funny. I have no idea what any of it's about. Ugh, you know what I don't love is that That's funny. Okay, let's look at something, because this never bothered me in the original sketch. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so the beginning is like 2 hours of random lore dumps. Okay, no one needs that. I remember at work a guy got Kingdom Hearts 3 for a 7-year-old who just wanted to see Elsa. Okay, all right. Okay, so this is a bit of a challenge. It was my intention to see how I could be faithful to the design of the headdress. And here's an earnest attempt. However, now it's sort of like big on her head, and it's not the, you know, I think we can agree that this works the way I've depicted it here, which is just this very loose thing with no detail at all. Hi brain, how are you doing? Yeah, we're trying to, right now I'm posing a question. Ultimately, I know the answer, but I can't have this giant piece of metal and still get the same vibe that I do from here. It's just taking up too much. I can minimize it, of course, but what it does right now is it looks so heavy. It just looks like it's gonna, like it needs to hang in a different way. Like if her head is tilted down, like I'm going to adjust some things. I think I might have to make the part that I made feel like it's got slack in it. I'm gonna have to make it rigid, pure rigid. And then change this part here so that it doesn't just follow her nose. I'll shrink that part. There's things we have to do for the sake of art. And sometimes we have to improve on source material. I mean, that can be fixed with line weight design, make the line art thinner and erase it where the highlights would be, no? So, possibly, yeah, we can do what we want to reduce certain things, but for me, it's catching for me in a way that I'm not going to be able to just let go. Not even with just that. I don't want it as big as it is. We're trapped in a world where it's like we want to honor source material, but we also want to honor, you know, this sketch that kicks ass. You saw this, I'm sure, Brain. Make the line art thinner and erase it where the highlights would be. So it's like, yes, but also that would help. And I'll probably end up doing stuff like that. I'm certainly not going to... it's like, if where we divert from the parts of this that kick ass, we will... we will not have the same outcome. So at least that's what I do if I think anything within the outline is competing with the contrast of the face. For me right now, it's not even so much about the size and all that stuff. It's about the fact that her head is tilting, and it feels to me like it needs to, because of that, like this thing on her head is, the way it's depicted here, it's basically held on by gravity. And like as if she jumped, it would like flop up and down on her head. And if she bent over, it would droop off of her head. And that's what it's running into for me, is it feels like if it's too heavy and these things feel like they have too much slack, that they will have a sense that it'll be a different impression than the one I made initially, where it feels light and cool. All I really think I have to do is just draw this more rigid. So it sort of feels like like a tiara of sorts. Let's just sort of think of this instead of like some sort of headdress. It's just a crown. It's just a fun, it's like a goth tiara. You take away the slack. Also, the piece looks so... let's see. It does indeed kick ass. At least that's what I do when I think anything is competing with the outline and contrast of the face. Yeah. Also, the piece looks so good. Yeah, I mean, like, the contrast of the face is basically what you're talking about. We don't want the... There's already so much, like, these little weird things on her head are already pointing right here. Basically, what's in danger is that, like, this becomes... It's like the focal point of her face and therefore the image. And we'll control with that by just adjusting the contrast where it has to be adjusted, and we're going to do that. But I think it can be as simple as just doing this. And then and already right now it's not bothering me. It was bothering me so much before, and now it's not. And we really didn't have to change much at all. So this is one of those things. But it's one of those things. It's like I want to make my plan for how things go and how they get finished before I start coloring, right? Looks like that's on a separate layer. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay with me. There's really tricky things that, like, I do want to think of these things as separate pieces because I'm going to have to sort of layer them and color them separately. You know what I mean? Like, this is behind her head, but this is on top of her head. So they actually need to be separate layers. One above the layer of her head and one below the layer of her head. That's the kind of stuff that gets really tricky for me to like tease apart my brain. I'm like, oh, what's the best way to do that? Brain says, also the piece looks so good. I love the brush strokes that make the piece look like it's in long exposure, rain, a meteor shower, time lapse. Oh, cool. Is that what it looks like? I guess it kind of does. Well, there's like this intense gradient thing that's happening in the sky, and that might be lessened in the final piece, but like seeing the reception that it gets, because this is sort of like everything I put out in a rough sketch is sort of like it's like taking the temperature of the audience. It's like, what do people think about this? And it's like, if it gets less than expected results, then it's a good indication that like maybe people aren't going to love it. And if it gets wildly exceeding results, then I'm like, people are going to like this, and I shouldn't necessarily experiment too much beyond where I've sort of set up things to go. But the people have spoken. This will kind of be it'll be a departure from my more action-oriented cinematic stuff for a little bit. At least this piece is. And let's see here. Okay, this also means that now this little weird opening in her hood needs to go more like that. We're off the playlist now. We're doing something else now. Let me find something else. I mean, this is cool music, but what's this? This is awesome. What album is it from? Go to album. It's really just a single. Shit, this one slaps. This is a lo-fi adventure of Link by Game Chops. I've never heard it before. I'm like, do the whole game. Give me all the Game Chops. How do I do that? Oh, that's funny. Sonic and Sleep, Zelda and Jazz 2. There's tons of music. That's awesome. Amazing stuff. Twilight Farmer Boy. Hey, we're doing great. I feel like I just missed some good conversations here. I was watching without sound. Can't watch without sound. There was a good amount of me just sort of explaining why I had to resize some things on her headpiece, and I don't know, chatting about other games that we like. No, I needed to watch something else with sound, basically. All good. That's a real fan. You know, keeping my viewership alive, even if you can't really watch it, or you're watching but not listening. That's cool. Headdress. Okay. So I feel like this is feeling pretty good. Yeah, I have a Zelda shirt. So weird. My wife ordered me like an extra large Zelda shirt, and I'm not like a big guy at all, but she ordered me an extra large one, and it has shrunk so much that it barely fits me anymore. It's still fine for streaming, but like if I like go like this, you can totally see my belly. I've had the shirt a little while. I don't wear it all the time. It unfortunately doesn't fit me very well, but I love it. Okay, more music. Let's try this one. Same. Fucking rad. I love this music. Second game had some cool music, for sure. Okay, what do I do with my stylus? What did I do with my stylus? Oh, come on. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. No. Ah. It's in one of my many pockets. Just started streaming myself. Do you mind if I keep your sound on and it's in my stream in the background? Not at all. Not at all. Wait, I already did that. You didn't have a problem. No, I don't care. No, and then if you have an idea of something to say, you can always pop back in. I do not have... There's nothing precious about this. It's meant to be, you know, it's a open door peek into my studio life, and it is my gift to the world. All right, I appreciate that. Let me know if I need to turn the music up or something. But anyway. There are some things I wonder if I should... It's like But it's like... The proof is in the pudding. Like, if the rough sketch just kicks ass, then... I know better from experience that it's like... It's just better to just try and... capture that essence than anything closer to what the original sources are meant to be. You know, yes, in this, like some things that have give me pause are I'm like, you know, should I make her eyes more like these sort of like tight slivers, you know, because that's very true to the character. You know, I drew her nose bigger than it needed to be, or it's at least well represented in the light. You know, she's got a slight smile. I don't know if the curl on the hair is right. But, you know, I put it out in the world. Everybody got it. And I don't think it does harm to change some of those things. I think they're interested in this take. That's the... I'm going to go with that thesis, is that something that works in a rough drawing might have a point. And that's worth investigating. This is our experiment. What is it about a rough drawing that can be so powerful? And I'm keenly aware that, like, believe me, it's not even a mild sense of frustration that sometimes rough drawings look better than the finished ones. There's a myriad of reasons why that could be. But being able to... It's a priority for me to capture that magic and then take it to the next level if I can. That might be harder than the rough drawing, and harder than doing a finished piece is finding that balance between what was great about a rough drawing and the finished piece. Like synthesizing that, preserving it, so you don't lose that magic. It's definitely happened to me many times where I'll look at the rough drawing and I'll see all sorts of errors in a rough drawing. Twilight says, I want to experience that process. I knew it's something you encounter when you draw. Interesting to hear your take. Yeah. Man, this is a cool album. Zelda tape. Yeah, sometimes I will do a rough drawing and I won't get the finished version won't look better than the rough drawing. And then when I analyze and compare the two, I can see, I'm like, well, here I added detail where I thought detail belonged, but it didn't need it, you know? Or here I clarified something that I thought maybe needed like this was too fuzzy before. So I you know, this line was loose and fuzzy, like blurry, right? So then I go in and I tighten it up. And it didn't help. It made it worse. When you compare the two things, you can see why. Like, something about... It's not a mystery. It's in the composition. All it really is the composition. I always come back to this quote. And the way I've seen audiences respond to these works has been only more reinforcing to it. Let me make sure I got this quote right, because I believe it's a Jack Dorsey quote, the guy who did Twitter. People admire complexity. The first thing that comes up is stupid people admire complexity. Interesting. Let's see if this is a quote. The statement, people admire complexity but rewards simplicity. I might not have the... Well, one quote is, an idiot admires complexity, a genius admires simplicity. That's not the same quote that I'm talking about. I swear I got this from Jack Dorsey. Quote. Okay, the first result for Jack Dorsey quote is, my goal is to simplify complexity. I just want to build stuff that really simplifies our base human interaction. I was fascinated with jeans because you can impress your life upon the jeans you wear. That's interesting. Interesting. I mean, some of these are really great quotes. Make every detail perfect and limit the number of details to perfect. You know, these are interesting. These are applicable to our interest here. So just to plug, Zelda Tape is what we're listening to right now. I guess it's a cooperation between DJ Cutman, Hayland, and Game Chops. Over here you can see my other playlists like Dua Lipa and Trolls. These are my children's favorite playlists. The Trolls soundtracks live on permanent repeat and permanent rotation in my family car. Much to my chagrin. I like the Trolls movies fine, but I don't need to hear the music more than 40 times a day. And this is, you know, to think about that quote, like when we move forward with this, I don't want to have too much emphasis. Like the emphasis on the headdress, it needs to be subordinate to the emphasis on her and everything else. Like that's a nice bit of backdrop detail, but I don't want it to overstate its welcome. Right. I'm not sure I have her eye line quite perfect. Brain says, oh man, yep, I believe there's a Mark Twain quote about a letter he wrote to a friend, paraphrased, my apologies on the length of the letter. If I had the time, it would have been shorter. Very true. Very true. Yeah. And this is this will be an interesting experiment because I will probably spend a week or two honing and refining and making this image as good as I can make it. What will be interesting is if it is more admired from the audience. It may or may not be. The purpose of me finishing it is sort of to also put forth that I have that skill set as well, because there is an audience for a more complete piece. Something that looks like they could print out like a poster and hang up on the wall. But in terms of like something that really just sort of like captures people's imagination and I mean, that's sort of it. Like a rough sketch requires a person's imagination to help complete it, right? So you get even more like personal investment from the person. They have there's room there for them to interpret. There's a sort of completeness, yet a malleability to a rough sketch that if compared to a finished piece, well, then it's all said and done, and that's what can be said about it. A rough sketch has potential. It is caught in the act of becoming. It's a very like a Zen philosophical kind of thing. Never to be complete, never truly complete, right? Brain says, in the engineering, there's a rule of thumb too. The best code is the simplest and shortest thing possible to be unbreakable. Right. Yeah. All the too many links in the chain, or each link in the chain is something that can go wrong, right? The more moving parts you have, the easier it is to break. Agreed. Agreed. No more moving parts than are necessary to sell the thing. And what isn't needed should be reduced until it's completely gone. But if you take it away and you miss it, then you might have needed it. The complexity of this headdress should therefore, because it's not that important, as I go in and I refine it, I will find ways of making it more impressionistic, right? So we see the best part is no part at all. That's cool. That's a cool quote. I especially like these sorts of takes and philosophies because I'm a fundamentally lazy person, and I don't like doing more work than is necessary. I think that's a really great, got that from Mr. Musk before he went political and stuff. Unfortunately, he may have some things right and many things wrong, and a formerly admirable person, in my opinion. And maybe we just had the impression. It was cool when he was doing all the rocket ship shit, and making electric cars, and like, come on, wasn't that enough? Did it have to? Did you have to make yourself the world of people who care about other people? Enemy of empathy. It's almost like Mr. Musk is just a dude like the rest of us. I feel like he's human. He can make mistakes. Smart man, most definitely. All right, well, let's not get too political. If he cures cancer, I'll heap all the praise on him. All right, let's see here. He's curing neural deficiency, though. I don't want to attribute to him that which is probably Neuralink. I won't attribute to him what is theoretically attributable to his employees as well. Let's put it a little bit more on topic. He is a proponent of generative AI, which threatens the artistic professions of you and I, or artistic aspirations in some respects. Seeing creativity as or at least visual creativity as some sort of task to be eliminated. I'm not sure if that's his perspective on the thing, but it is hard for me to have you read my Discord message? Let me see here. So, how's your drawing going? Haha, change the subject. I mean, it's going well. Let's see here. Discord message. Did you send me one? I don't see anything. In the group? Is this in regards to the VOD settings? So I'm recording, or it's going to publish? It should. I did. I clicked your... Yes, I did see that, and I did... I found the toggle switch, and I adjusted it, so thanks for that. Yeah, so this will just go right up once we're done with it. All right. Well, this is good. Made some good progress here. So that it stops bugging me, I'm going to do a little quick fill behind the wire of this headdress so that it stops having an interference with the lines of the hair, like so. Small stuff like that can drive me nuts. All right. Feeling clean and good. Not too much, not too little. Well represented here, and we will adjust its presence, positive or negative, later on, as needs dictate. Yeah, you can watch it back later. And I'm slowly catching up on, there's a backlog of VODs that I've been uploading. I spent a few minutes uploading more to YouTube as well. For the benefit of the chat, I should say that Twilight has been diligently looking at my past episodes that I've been uploading to YouTube. And you may be the only one, frankly, as far as I can tell. But if you are, you're certainly giving him some watch time, so I appreciate that. There are sporadic moments of maximum brilliantness that can come through unpredictably. Okay. Let's see here. We probably have half an hour before... No, let's see here. Right now, my wife has gone to pick up my daughter from school, and now in 15 minutes, she's going to pick my son up from school. And then they are going to come here, and then I should call it a day because the... Oh, dude, that's an effort on Twilight Farmer Boy's part. You stream twice a day, right? Sometimes I don't stream at all for days. Although these days, especially because I'm not as busy with work, that's just a matter of randomness. But the on days that I'm not busy with work, I try to treat this like it's at least a part-time job. So I'll put in 4 to 6 hours on a good day. I don't think I've streamed like 8 hours in a day once, but maybe we'll get there. I'll probably try and do like cool marathon streams or, you know, challenges. Can confirm. Yeah, I mean, What I will say is a lot of the like audio and video fidelity on those early streams are not great, but but honestly, for Twilight, you've probably seen that like the earlier episodes when I'm basically, it's like the middle of the night and I'm like drunk off a bottle of wine and I'm just learning about streaming and I'm just experimenting, and like my brother will raid in with some friends and someone will say something and I'll start ranting about AI or something like that, you know, getting mad about something, you know. Stuff I don't really do so much these days. So I'm trying to be smarter and set a good example. But back when I didn't know what I wanted to be doing with this, or whether or not I would do it more than once or twice, there's something, it's familiar because it's the same. I mean, it's like me, but it's also different in that I didn't quite. Yeah, but you know what's different when you do it? For me, at least, you're an adult, a father, a professional artist. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. My younger brother is. He's a regular. He usually joins me if I'm streaming at night. Yeah, Boxer. He's like me, except slightly handsomer and younger. We don't necessarily look alike, although we do look like brothers. He definitely, but he has his own way, which is sort of done him well. And without him, he encouraged me to get into streaming, which for which I'm grateful, and helped me get set up and understand the things I needed to get set up here. Instead of just yammering, I need to, let's see if I can make some headway on this. What is this called? This sort of like circular, semicircular bit of, it's like a lookout portion of a castle or something. I don't know. But yeah, indebted to him and many others for their encouragement to get started and then keep going. You know, and it's especially hard. I mean, I'm still very much I'd like a terrace. Yeah, sure. Let's call it a terrace. And okay, so, and especially like this thing in particular that I'm drawing, I don't want it to feel super important. So I'm not gonna like freak out about accuracy. The way I'm drawing it right now is sort of gonna reflect that there are sort of odd imperfections in the surface. Here where we see variations in the form, like it's pretty clear that here is gonna be a line and somewhere here is gonna be a line. But also there can be other things that indicate form and lines. You know, this is not a society with laser cut precisions. If I make it look like it was drawn by someone using a calculator, that's not the right aesthetic, right? So it's a perfect opportunity to sort of like turn off the brain a little bit and cool down with a fun exercise on how can I make this look right without making it look important. We need details so that people understand the texture and what it's made of, but not more details than it needs. And whatever details I add, I'll adjust the importance of them later on. But like if I drew it like this, that might, compared to everything else, make it feel more important than it is. It just doesn't need that. If I need to make it thicker later, I can just thicken up those lines like that by adding them on top of each other and increasing their oomph. It's funny that the caps lock felt humorous there. Terrace? Ha ha ha. And then here, I started off not even listening to my own advice. I caught myself as I was like, make things look accurate, but that's not where this needs to be right there. But in case, I've got it's not even a link. It's just at YouTube and Twitch and Tumblr and Linktree. It's all at Max FWD, Max Fwid, Max Forward. And there's usually a delay in putting up the latest VODs, but that's where I'll put the stuff. And there are a few occasions where I've put up other stuff that's more related to the storyboarding work that I do, which is not the domain of fandoms, but it is I'll look into the Max lore. Do a quick save. And then I'll probably go another 15 minutes. Or whenever the front door opens and 4 young children come streaming in, because it's not just my kids coming home today from school. It's 2 of their classmates essentially were friends with their parents. That's like the best gift a parent can have, is when the friends of their children can become friends of the adults as well. What a wonderful arrangement. They have some important events going on today that is, and so we're helping them out by basically saying, hey, you can, instead of having kids be crazy at your house, which is going to cause a disruption, come over here. It's a play date, but a necessary one. So it's not just for fun. And then that becomes its own sort of like social currency, right? Because it's like, okay, now you guys owe us a bailout if we ever need to have a place to put kids. Yeah, I don't want to, like, I'm not doing anything that I feel is like, being a parent is fucking hard. You need allies. I guess that's really what I'm trying to do, is there was a time in my life where I felt very much like I didn't need anybody, that, you know, I was too good to fail at art, and there was nothing to be gained from making friends with other artists. It sounds really bad, but I used to be like that, if I'm being honest. And when my daughter got sick, it was for a while, at least a couple of days, it was an extremely isolating, and I just realized it's like, no one is gonna help me. It's like nobody cared. No one is going to care, because it's sort of like, I'm gonna be so busy dealing with this. Outcomes aside, it's like, for the next 3 years, for better or for worse, I'm gonna be sucked into this medical nightmare. And I felt horribly depressed by it. What ended up happening, though, was word got out, and then turns out people that I thought didn't care about me cared very much about what was going on. And, you know, sent us support money, and then helped us to, which helped immensely with bridging a very significant, because my wife had to basically walk away from her work. So we were down a whole income. And so friends and family, to a small degree, but surprisingly more so, the support came from my clients and my and actually total strangers, people who I never met. There was a GoFundMe that was created, not by me, but by my sister-in-law. But once it took off, it became my job to manage it. And I would just update it really realistically with whatever was going on. Some days were quieter than others. Some days it felt like the world was falling apart, and I would keep it updated, not too dissimilar to this stream. Writing posts about what was happening and just hoping that things turned out okay, and saying thanks for sticking with us and your support and stuff like that. And some of the most generous people to donate were people who I hadn't met ever, and I still, total strangers to me, people I'll never know. And so I've learned many lessons about myself and human nature, and that type of those types of interactions. Essentially, that you never know who you can depend on, but it helps to maybe think of the potential of helping others and being helped by others in ways that you can't anticipate and don't expect. You can't expect. Now, how does that dovetail with how I've discussed often at length with how I'm not happy with the way things are going with my clients right now? Well, I'm not sure that I have the same relationship with my clients right now, unfortunately. Because it's different to say that, you know, we need to help Max. He's here all the time. He's an integral part of our team. We see him at the studio all the time. Like, there's no way we can replace him. It's like we need to donate to him and keep hiring him so he knows that he's supported, so he doesn't just fall to pieces, so we can, you know, ultimately they were helping me because they needed to. They were helping me because they wanted to, of course, but also the fact that they needed to was a contributing factor. But those same people that I counted on then have since moved on to, in some ways, entirely new professions. I think what I'm getting at is I'm not sure if I can, I don't trust necessarily that I can, if the worst should happen and my daughter gets sick again, could always happen. What assurances do I have that we can go back and have the same support from the people that I received it? I'm not sure that I can. I think it's better, therefore, because it's pretty much the only, when something like that happens, you just realize that all other problems in life are sort of stupid. There's no way you can insure or prevent against something, an event like that completely taking you down, because it happens. And so my biggest insurance, therefore, against something like that taking me out and therefore my daughter or my family, is to strengthen my network. My network back then was strong, but in the intervening years since COVID, it has weakened to the point where at this time I'm just an email address in a Rolodex, a name and a roster, a text in a chain. That's not the connection I can depend on anymore. I need something deeper. And if it can't be deeper, I need it to be broader. So that if everything else aside, that's really the most important thing. I need to make everyone an ally again. And that's we can have, there will be, if we are honest with each other and talk about things, then it'll make it clear that, yes, we'll have political differences between some of the people who have opinions on this stream and who like to talk about things, but there's no political differences when it comes to sick children. Everybody has the same opinion about that. Thankfully, there's a lot of common ground. We overemphasize the differences, and a lot of that is fueled by anxiety. But that's because the world and our society, in an effort to make us purchase things, feeds us information that makes us anxious. And we yearn for escape, to feel like we can have a place to shelter, have a different experience, even if it's temporary or not real. But here, I don't know. Anyway, let's play nice and have, I think we can mostly focus on things that are more unifying, common things in all humanities. Things everybody agrees on. All right, what do you think about that? Oh, let's see here. Oh, it's even better when they're in the neighborhood. Yeah, I agree. We have some fun neighborhood friends. Childhood friendships turned lifelong friendships are incredibly rare. Oh, yes, it's astonishing how often we forget how beautiful the concept of the human village is. Yeah, I feel like, and to the next question, okay, that said, I've heard you talk about this at least 4 times out of which 2 live. My question is, why can you not be in office drawing anymore? So the studios that hire me have essentially become incorporeal. They are not physical anymore. They are virtual studios that essentially everybody's working from home. So what is essentially my office now is this and a Slack channel for whoever is my client that day. And Slack is basically a business version of Discord. There's no real difference as far as I can tell, except, Slack is for professionals and Discord is for everyone else. Yup. Most left-wing and most right-wing people are still worried about rent. They're still worried about their bills, their futures, their place in the world, their children's future, and their bread and butter. Everything else will pass. It's just everything is, the discourse about, that which makes us different is silly. We're on we have amazing things potentially at our fingertips. I'm using technology developed by people whom I disagree with politically, no doubt, in various different ways. But yet I will use this to my advantage and connect with people on far-flung corners of the globe. That's an amazing thing. That's more important. To reach out, like what will save humanity is stuff like this. We have something that is unique and special in this potentially. Right now, it's mostly used as a diversion for, like millennials and Gen Z and stuff like that. But the real potential is real. There are redeeming portions of social media. Facebook is not it, but there are pockets of real potential that of which I consider this to be a source for good, potentially. Everyone working from home, that gives me 1984 vibes. It's extremely as I've been living it. Well, I mean, parts of it are extremely convenient. I don't have to stress too much about some aspects of being a parent as a result. But where things are falling off dramatically in terms of like my networking effects, well, in some ways it can be good because someone who doesn't live in Los Angeles, right, can work with people who are in Los Angeles, which is great. And a lot of people who lived here now live in other places, but still do the same work. I'm not really in much of a position to just go. We've put down roots here, and my family still lives here, and my parents and my brother, and I could still consider this a good place to live, despite the fires and, whatever your opinions about California or Los Angeles. I was born here, and to me, this is home. So the idea of being like, now I can finally leave LA and still work on the same type of stuff, but in a cheaper place, that's sort of a non-starter for me. So I don't consider that an option, at least yet. Not unless I'm forced to do it. But the directors whom I used to work with, who I would see every day at the studios, they all now live in different places. In some instances have bought second and third homes and places where they can feel like they've done well for themselves, and good for them, you know. But because of the fact that they won't return to office, I don't think anybody will. Because why would we, like, if the directors aren't returning to office and the producers aren't returning to office, what hope is there for the artists to get back into the office? And there's a lot of people don't want to go back to the office because they have social anxieties, and they have, and I don't know what to say other than I don't think staying at home all day is better for your social anxieties than, like, if social anxieties can be helped, it might be to expose them to social things. Gosh knows I've dealt with that in time, but over time I got used to it. Until I became a very good player in the social game. Those types of interactions allowed me to have a really strong in-person network, and therefore be not just an anonymous, you know, grunt who was easily expendable. When my daughter got sick, it was, you know, people cared about me, and then by extension my family, and they became invested in hearing about how things were going, good or bad, via the updates I put into my GoFundMe. And I just think it's I can't go into the office because there's just no office to go to. Actually, one of my clients that is very well run, they have an office, expansive campus. They own a building downtown, and they have 3 floors, and it's huge. It's awesome. Stacked with all the goodies in the world, and hundreds of desks and meeting rooms and beautiful views. And it looks like something out of Gattaca. Maybe not Gattaca. A nicer version of Gattaca. How about that? But it's empty. There's no one there. There's people who, a skeleton crew runs it, as far as like one person sitting in a desk at the front, and a few custodial people. And that's it. Sometimes artists go in for whatever reason, and they'll do their work. But on 3 floors, there's maybe 7, 8 people working, with like huge empty swaths of space in between, and no kind of casual kind of reason to, you know, chat with you. Like, if someone was you know, if someone's sitting next to you in class, you know, that's you know, hey, we sit next to each other. I'm so-and-so, you're so-and-so. You know, small talk. How do you have small talk with someone who's assigned automatically to a desk, like on purpose, as far away from you as possible, assuming you wanted all that privacy? It was more isolating there than at home. And that's the only place that was a functioning studio, like with a physical presence. They've talked about like having more return to the office stuff, but the directors themselves are not into it. They don't want it. And the same thing with the higher ups. You know, they're convenient to just work at home where it's convenient. You know, to them, it's not. There's nothing being lost. And sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who gives a shit. You know, it's about the network, the village. You know, you can have a village for your family, and there's other villages too. And instead of having a tight village with my work people, there's been a diaspora. But right now the reverse is true. I've got children flooding into the home. Everything is loud, and I'm going to finish up in a second. Brain says, Twilight Farmer Boy, I get what you mean, but I feel like the compensation of working in our office is arbitrary at best and just an odd control tactic at worst. I appreciate that remote work has destroyed the limitations of physical distance. It has its advantages, don't get me wrong. The best part is discussion, collaboration, and mentorship. That occurs in an office, and camaraderie is amazing, but remote work lets me find hyper-specific work that I'd find personally fulfilling. in a country that has stronger currency than my own. Yes, agreed. There's winners and losers for sure in any shakeup, and huge opportunities for many that come around with it. But like, for instance, half my clients are in New York now. Half my business is on the East Coast. I'm not there, and I never used to do that type of work with any regularity. Now I do. And I can coordinate on projects that people are working on in Sydney, Australia specifically, or the UK. I had a huge job last year based out of Great Britain for a Mercedes-Benz commercial campaign. It was interesting. They were asleep while I worked, and I slept while they worked, and it was interesting. Worked well. But remote work lets me find that person. Okay, yeah, we hear them. Yeah, you can hear them. Yeah, alrighty, CMX. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, well, you're possibly coming up in a time when the majority, like right now, I miss what I had. The grass is always greener. It's like that. But this feels like I'm doing far more productive networking than I do on an anonymous Slack channel or a very small limited amount of email addresses that just further and further disappearing down the chain of relevancy in an email, So that's what worries me. But we're making progress. Taking a different path. And I'm glad I started. All right. You guys are great. I really appreciate the support. It's feel like I'm finding my village a little bit more. A bigger village. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to feel like I'm next to people to feel like I'm next to people. How about that? Let's end it there. All right. Here's me. This is me right here, It's looking out there. Where are my people? I'm glad to have found you, that you're doing this. I'm glad you did too. Yeah. All right. This is an important thing, and I don't always need to make this like a big, like, heart, but like what's happened to me, and I've tapped into those feels. Let me put it this way. Nobody would have given a shit if I didn't have the skill to get into those studios in the first place and crush the work that they gave me like it was easy. That was a rare thing and not an easy thing to replace. So they were positioned to do what they needed to do, and I was grateful for it then. I had my time where I was in that position, and I was rescued by the benefit of my clients, but you can trace that back to, what got me in there was my skill, and the fact that was in demand. If we need to globally raise the human level of skill, artistic skill and potential. That would be a goal of mine, is to see how can I nudge the bar a little bit higher, so that people who, because I don't know, it's like you guys probably don't have kids. See, this is why you guys don't miss the office. There's only good things. When you're at home and you have to be a parent and work at the same time, it's like a different vibe. Trust me. All right, so just stop myself before I go on another big thing. But it's very, my perspective on this is comes from experience that, God forbid that happen to anybody else, but it might. We all need to be the best artists that we can be, because we don't know what's around the corner and who we'll rely on next. And so it's just, you need to train hard, and then win easy, and then, all the other, platitudes or whatever, the things to say. All right, that's it. I'm going to let y'all go. Thanks for sticking around, and I'm going to catch you next time. Adios.